Come take a walk with me and my expert co-host Hunt Palmer from 104.5 ESPN Radio as we break down everything LSU baseball.
Anything to talk baseball. You tell me to come talk baseball, I will come talk baseball.
So let's go deeper on who's in and who's out. Here on Sports Takeover, Hunt, the mad scientist, who is affectionately known in Baton Rouge as Jay Johnson.
That's important.
I still think there's enough guys to execute the way we want to win weekends, to win games, and we just got to get them a little bit better.
After this weekend, you got to get them a lot better. It's no little to it. It was a rough one for the Tigers against those other Tigers in Auburn. Welcome into another edition of Sports Takeover. I'm your host, Matt Trent. To my left, Hunt Palmer of 104.5 ESPN Radio. His smile is a little bit bigger than usual because he's a happy man because he won our wager of me saying that LSU
We're going to sweep every series from here on out. Yeah, that was a tough one for me.
It was going to sweep the remaining 5 weekends. I was so close.
You really weren't. You were not close.
I was close. We're just going to say I was close. It's this LSU pitching staff that's ruining it for everybody. The team, the fans, us as the people that cover them and make wagers on them. I think that's where we start this thing, right, from this weekend. Pitching, it was good Friday, shocker with Paul Skeens, and then it just went straight down the tubes after that.
Ty Floyd started well. He got 7 straight strikeouts, which was kind of following in line with what we saw from Paul Skeens with his 15 strikeouts on Friday night. But then Ty Floyd issued 3 walks in an inning, including a wild pitch. He balked and never really got it back, and they continued to roll relievers out there, and Auburn just made LSU pay for getting behind in counts and not throwing nearly enough strikes. And, I mean, what you saw on Sunday was just embarrassing. I don't have another word for it.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that's frustrating for me about Saturday and Sunday with Ty Floyd and Christian Little is that we're getting the same song and dance pretty much every weekend. Ty Floyd either starts rough and finishes great or starts great and finishes rough. Christian Little, I don't know what he's doing. And I've talked to scouts around, the area that have covered LSU, and I've blatantly asked them, what's going on with Christian Little? They go, we don't even know. He's doing he's having the same type of results that he had at Vanderbilt, the control. It's a little bit better than when he was in Nashville, but Hunt, it's still really, really bad at this point.
Just not enough strikes. I mean, for LSU as a staff to walk 6 guys before you record an out, that's 8-year-old, 9-year-old stuff. That's not the number 1 team in the country. And look, there were some guys that were pretty good over the weekend out of the bullpen. I thought Thatcher Hurd was great. I thought that Gavin Guidry was pretty good.
Yes.
I thought Riley Cooper had a pretty nice weekend. But you're going to count on so many guys to be good because you're starting pitching after Skeens does not eat up a lot of innings that the odds are somebody's not going to have it. And that was the case with LSU with 3 or 4 guys.
Yeah, and you log on to any social media outlet over the weekend and fans are just in full meltdown mode as we expect with every loss, every series loss, which we haven't had one in the SEC this year. This was the first time they've lost a weekend. But Jay Johnson, not even close, surprisingly, to pushing the panic button.
I don't even use that word. I mean, we're a no drama program. That's why we're 37-10 and, top of, the league and college baseball and all those types of things. Like, I don't think that's a deal. There's a difference between having intentionality and urgency in what you're doing and panic. I mean, panic's drama, intensity, and urgency is a plan.
Are you panicking?
No.
Yeah, I'm not either. I think that a little bit of it is overreaction because it's kind of like comparing, when it comes to the pitchers, it's kind of like comparing everybody to Paul Skeens. Just because you're not Michael Jordan doesn't mean that Scottie Pippen was horrible, right?
Right, and they weren't good enough over the weekend to beat Auburn, but they've been good enough every other weekend. And in an offensive world that is college baseball where everybody's shattering home run records and scored a bunch of runs, LSU is doing that. They didn't hit as well as they need to against Auburn. Dylan Cruz went 2 for 12. That's not going to happen very often. Jordan Thompson went 1 for 12. Tommy White was great, but they gotta swing the bats and help their pitching staff out. And they put them in such a deep hole pitching-wise on Sunday. They couldn't dig out of it.
Every team, no matter if you're 1 or you're 301 in the country, they have weekends like this, right? You're allowed to have weekends like this, especially if you're the number 1 team when you've got a target on your back. Is this one of those weekends? Are you seeing anything from this weekend that's going to give you the heebie-jeebies moving forward?
Far more in terms of throwing strikes and pitching than it is with the bats really not responding the second half of game 2 and then just scoring the 2 runs in game 3. They'll hit. That's not a concern. They do have to pitch a little bit better, and they're not going to pitch great. They're not going to be a dominant pitching staff at any point. Skeens will, and then that's about it. But you've got to hit and you've got to throw strikes. And so concern, fine. Panic, no.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, hovering over the button, not really ready to slam it, but the pitching staff is a little bit iffy, and specifically Ty Floyd and Christian Little, who we're going to get into here in a minute. Do they need to stay in this rotation? Do they need to move to another role? We'll get all into that when we come back.
Sports Takeover will be back after these messages. We're back with Sports Takeover.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on Sports Takeover. This LSU pitching is going to be the subject of pretty much this entire show, especially in the weekend rotation. Look, I think one of the issues, especially with Christian Little, is that, yes, he's bad at the moment. But what makes it even worse is that the guys that you have as possible replacements aren't lighting the world on fire as well.
Right. I mean, look, Thatcher Hurd's had 3 really good outings in a row. But that doesn't mean I'm ready to uproot Thatcher Hurd from a spot where he's gotten comfortable to try to fill in another spot. We understand that LSU's third starter is not going to be asked to go 7 shutout innings. They need a third starter to give them 4 innings of 1-run baseball and then get into the bullpen and let your offense hit. That's realistic for this team to get outs in chunks. After Skeens, everyone else is going to be asked, hey, can you give me 5 outs? Can you give me 8 outs? Can you give me 3 outs? Can you give me 6 outs at some point in the rest of the weekend? And Ty Floyd's capable of that, and Christian Little's capable of that, and Thatcher Hurd's capable of that, and Riley Cooper's capable, and so is Griffin Herring and Gavin Gidgey. Like, they've got enough guys to get it figured out, but they didn't get the job done over the weekend.
We're kind of in the same reciprocating situation that we had earlier in the year. Christian Little coming out of the pen, throwing really well. Thatcher Hurd was still kind of iffy. Now it's the reverse situation, and maybe I think that's why Jay Johnson is not ready to throw in the towel and really shuffle the deck with this weekend rotation, because he said, look, this weekend was bad, but it's really the only bad weekend we've had all year.
We haven't not pitched well the entire season. You know, we have some injuries, and we have some guys that have pitched well that didn't pitch well on Saturday and Sunday. I mean, Ty was as good as you could ask for the beginning of that game, and that really excites me about him. And as a coach, you know, from the outside, you don't understand this. You're just in this really difficult spot where we still have 12 outs to get. And Javen, we got to kind of get him going, so it was the right spot and right time to bring in. He was amazing in the 5th. And they just kind of lost it a little bit in the 6th after a long inning. And then we just had trouble getting outs.
All right, here you take a look at Christian Little's strike throwing percentage his last 5 starts. It's just all over the place, kind of like his control. I mean, throw out the Tulane start because that was a midweek. He was on a pitch count, so whatever. He was still at 60%. But look at it once he hits SEC play. You don't know what kind of pitcher you're going to get when he toes a rubber.
And the worst part about the outing at Auburn was that not only were there balls, they were non-competitive pitches. They were not even close to the zone. You can be a little bit wild and miss a little bit outside or a little bit inside, a little bit down, and you might get a swing and you might get some poor contact. If it's not even close and you got Alex Milazzo doing gymnastics back there trying to keep the ball in front of him, well, you're just going to be walking guys. And then even if you're not walking guys, you're going to be in 3-ball counts, you're going to be in advantage counts, and that's where you're going to get hurt, and that's where Little's been the last couple of weeks.
In this day and age of college baseball, when it comes to a pitching staff, you're only going to be as good as your worst guy. Because when you get to Hoover and you lose a game, or you get to a regional and you lose a game, and you got to fight your way up through the loser's bracket, you're going to have to rely on those 4th and 5th, maybe even 6th guy to get you to a really good situation and win championships. Now, as for Ty Floyd, I'm not sold on him being the number 2 guy either. I'm not sold on Christian Little being the number 2 guy. Hell, at this point, Gavin Gidgey might be our best option to start after Paul Skeens? Let's be totally honest with ourselves.
I think it's Floyd, and you got to have an expectation that you're asking Ty Floyd to get you through 5 innings of 2-run baseball. That's the baseline for Ty Floyd. Maybe you get the Ole Miss outing where he gets into the 9th inning and he's great. Probably not. That hasn't been what he's done most of the year. But you're not asking him to go into the 8th inning with a shutout. You're not asking him to be exactly what Jared Poche was as a number 2, or what Anthony Renato in 2009 or Lewis Coleman was as a number 2. You're asking him to get you through 5 innings, and you're going to tell your offense, hey, we got to score. And if your pitching staff holds a team in check and keeps them around 2, 3, 4 runs, LSU's going to win 95% of those games.
It's kind of like golf. You're always allotted a blow-up hole, right? You're always allotted a double or a triple bogey. It's just how many of them you can put on your scorecard. If you can keep 1 run from ballooning into 2 and 3, then you'll probably be fine as a starter or a guy in the bullpen in the SEC. But with Ty Floyd, that 4th inning, the wheels fell off. The balk, the walks, the hits, and Jay Johnson said they talked, he and Ty did, and he said that was a huge effect on his outing.
I think it had an effect, but what I love about Ty is he and I had a conversation yesterday morning about it, and he's like, it definitely affected me, and I can't let it affect me. And it's just like, that's all I need to know. Like, he's going to come out and he's going to pitch great this week. And that was very impressive up until that point. And I mean, literally to the point where, there was a thought, as bad as it was getting off the rails, and he walked like 3 or 4 guys of leaving him in the game because of the execution to that point. And so I think he's really grown. Again, the starting pitcher's job is to give his team a chance to win. Would you like to have him in the 5th inning there or the 6th inning? Absolutely. But at that point, he leaves the game. We're losing 3-2. So he technically did his job.
I don't know about technically doing his job, but with Ty also in that outing, you've got to take into account the ejection that took forever to get figured out. He's throwing with Tommy White on the side, so that might have reset him a little bit. The 5th inning, can we just get there? I feel like if we just get there, we'll be in a lot better situation than we are right now.
Yeah, that's the goal. It's to get Ty Floyd to the 5th inning would be the goal. And LSU's still right now kind of playing by the moniker of we're going to win behind Skeens, and you just got to kind of split the next 2. And they've done a lot of that over the first 7 weekends of SEC play. They won behind Skeens in weekend number 8, and they weren't able to split the next 2. More often than not, LSU's going to get that done. They just didn't this time. Now, you lose a Skeens start, all of a sudden it gets a little dicey. Now, they were able to hit their way out through Arkansas when they did it. They were able to come back and beat South Carolina in the next game after he lost that one because of the rain. So it's happened, but that's kind of where LSU is. And they got to that point in game 1 on Friday. They just didn't split.
Well, it doesn't play into your favor when you get into a setting like a regional or a super regional where you've got to play multiple games in a short amount of time. When we come back, we're going to look at LSU's regional projections, how these current issues, how they'll affect them in that type of format.
Sports Takeover will be back after these messages. Oh, we're back with Sports Takeover.
All right, welcome back. Matt Trent, Hunt Palmer joining you here on Sports Takeover. Look, LSU, for the first time all season, is no longer the number 1 team in college baseball. It even sounds weird for me to verbalize it because it's been such a fantastic season. They've bumped all the way down to number 2. Man, that's just how the season has gone. They've been that good that even number 2 feels like a failure. But a lot of people are saying that it might have knocked them off of the number 1 overall seed come regional time. I don't think so. Do you?
It depends on what goes on the next 3 weeks. Wake Forest has not lost a weekend yet. They've been excellent. Their conference is a little lesser than LSU, and LSU's metrics are very good. But Wake Forest has not lost a weekend, and they're going to win the ACC. LSU is in a dogfight to win the Southeastern Conference. So it could. My thing is 1 through 8 are the same. 1 is the same as 8, is the same as 6, is the same as 3. As long as you're at home until you get to Omaha. By that point, it's such a crapshoot. And we've seen the number 1 overall seed go out before they got to Omaha the last couple of years. So I just be one of the top 8, and LSU's in very good shape there.
Yeah, let's throw those regional projections up on the screen for you. This is what D1 Baseball has this week of what LSU is going to do. Still got them as the number 1 overall seed, obviously hosting a regional, but you see Southern Miss, and then you see Jason Kelly from Washington, bringing his new squad, who's playing halfway decent in the Pac-12, back to Baton Rouge. Things could change, obviously, in the next couple of weeks, but Jay Johnson said in terms of this team fighting and striving to be number one, it's really not about that.
I don't know what to tell them, to try harder. No, that's not the issue with this team, relative to that. I mean, what we'll do is we'll make some adjustments that we need to, whether it be mental or physical, kind of as Michael was saying, and then get back on it. And that's all that they've done, and excited about that. Woke up incredibly energized this morning to get into this week.
If my memory serves me correct, the number one overall seed hasn't won the College World Series
since 1999.
I was getting ready to say, in almost 3 decades. So, and if anybody knows, you look back at last year in Tennessee, maybe being not the number one overall seed plays into their favor.
I don't believe that. I think it's fine to be the number one overall seed. I think it's fine to have the best resume in the country. If they end up number 2, that's fine with me as well. I just get one of those top 8. They really need to take care of business the next 2 weeks so they go to Hoover with nothing to do, and you can just play freewheel in there. If you want to give Skeens a 30-pitch outing, you want to try some other guys in different roles, you can just have some fun in Hoover.
Yeah, and look, this weekend is going to be the weekend to do it. Mississippi State coming to Baton Rouge, and maybe in years past, a lot of fans will be really excited for this weekend. But Mississippi State is not the Mississippi State that won the College World Series just a couple of years ago. We'll get you a preview on the Tigers and Dogs when we come back.
Sports Takeover will be back after these messages. Now, we're back with Sports Takeover.
All right, closing this thing out, we got 3 minutes to talk about Mississippi State baseball as quickly as we can. I'll start. Very bad baseball team.
That is correct. And you would have thought, winning a national championship, there's no way you could fire a coach 2 years later, but we watched that on the football side in Baton Rouge a couple of years ago. So, yeah, Chris Lemonis got them to the top of the mountain, and they have been absolutely trash for 2 years since. And really, the effort they put out against Arkansas last week was embarrassing. I listened to a couple of Mississippi State podcasts on Monday, and they can't believe that it's gotten to this point.
Yeah, I remember it might have been their opening weekend of the season, or maybe the opening SEC weekend, and they interviewed the head coach, and I think someone just asked him, what's going on? Because I think at that point they had lost, it was some wild stat, like 27 straight at home or something wild like that, and the coach was literally just like, I had no idea. Like, I have no idea how we go from winning it all 2 years ago to now being a game above 500. It is wild time, really, in the entire state of Mississippi. Ole Miss is going down the tubes. Mississippi State, I mean, they've been swept in the past 2 SEC series. They've got the worst. I mean, you just read this, and you would think you'd be looking at a mid-major, lower-tier Division I team.
And they were 9-21 in the league last year, 6-18 to this point this year, and they can't get anybody out. That's the problem. They've given up 60-plus runs over the last 2 SEC weekends. Last weekend, they let 4 pop-ups drop. It's really bad. D'Angelo Sanger is really cool to watch because he pitches with both arms and he goes like 95 miles an hour. It's not a gimmick. Like, he's a very, very talented guy who can absolutely pitch with both arms, but he doesn't get a lot of outs, and neither does anybody else on that staff.
You think the recruiting staff, when they were recruiting D'Angelo, was like, yeah, he's good, but we really need a marketing ploy to get people in the seats.
He's got a glove that he can switch hand to hand so he can pitch with both hands. He stopped at a certain point during the season and just went to right-handed, which is where he throws a little bit harder. But then he went back a couple of weeks ago to going with both hands. So if you see D'Angelo Sanger come in this weekend, you'll see him chunking with both wings.
I'm just thinking about 2 years ago with this series, people were like, man, Mississippi State's coming to town. Yeah. Now it's like, Mississippi State's coming.
It's one of the best rivalries in all of college baseball with what Ron Polk and Skip Bertman cultivated in the 80s, and he kind of blew over. And look, it's
legendary.
It's got one team that's on the top of the mountain right now and the other that's in desperate need to win a couple games. I'm telling you, Chris Lemonis, you go ahead and lose 5 of these last 6 in SEC play, I think that's it.
See ya. So I'm assuming you're going sweep this week.
I'm going to go 2 out of 3. I'm going to go 2 out of 3. They're not good, but they can hit a little bit, and LSU's pitching staff's not exactly setting the world on fire. I just need LSU to get 2. You get 2 this weekend, all you got to do is go to Athens and get 1, and we're set.
I'm going sweep.
Of course you're going sweep.
He's
going sweep every weekend.
We'll see you next week.